Okay. So this is where we left. We've been seeing actually that you cannot just make a financial plan. For making the financial plan, you have to analyze the customer requirement and the customer financial situation, along with the risk which he has a capacity and a tolerance. So we have to look at both the risk capacity and risk tolerance. What's the difference between capacity and tolerance?
Ma'am, capacity is more about financial status, whereas tolerance is about psyche, basically.
Yeah, psychological. So
Psychological state.
correct. So we have to look at both the risk capacity of the customer along with the risk tolerance of the customer. So it is very important. So I'm emphasizing this again and again. That is, it is very important to know the customer before we go on and make a financial plan to him. So if you want to succeed in the BFSI sector, now I'm saying the entire BFSI sector, because sales is an integral part of the BFSI sector today. You hardly have jobs which we used to call operations in earlier times, because most of it has been automated. And wherever possible, the industry is trying to automate things to bring in consistencies. However, certain things like relationship management cannot be automated, and therefore people need relationship managers or wealth managers. And if you want to be a good wealth manager, it is very important to know the customer before making a financial plan. So I often compare the role of the wealth manager of with that of a doctor. So when you go to a doctor, the doctor does not prescribe you the drug immediately. He speaks with you, he allows you to talk, he tries to understand um, your status, and only then he suggests you any kind of product. Okay? So that is true for wealth managers as well. We have to first understand um, the customer status and then make a financial plan. So this will help you. So all of you are freshers, you don't know how to start. So these are guidelines as to what conversations you can engage with the customer uh, to make a financial plan for them. So if you suggest a product without understanding the need, the results or the efficiency of such call would be very, very less. Okay. So it is better to first understand the customer, and people buy because of their need. So you have to understand the need of the customer, and these are some touch points which you have to explore before you make a financial plan for the customer. So again, if you look at the entire 6-step process of financial planning, it talks about, in the first 3 plans, it only talks about your interaction with the customer. It is only in the 4th step that we make a financial plan for the customer. Then we implement it, and then we continuously monitor it. So knowing the customer is very important before making a financial plan. Okay. So some of the ratios which we can look at is the liquidity ratio, or debt, savings, what risk he has, what is the tax burden, what is inflation, and the net worth. So if you remember, these were formulas which we also looked at while looking at the finance of the company. So do you remember anything? How do you calculate the net worth? How will you calculate the net worth of a business?
Ma'am, asset minus liability. Net worth is equal to asset minus of liabilities.
Assets minus liability is the net worth, or the owner's equity, as we call it in business. But for a customer, asset minus liability is the net worth. So for example, you go to a customer who says that he has 25 lakhs in investments, but also has a 50 lakh loan. What is his net worth?
Minus 25 lakh.
Yes, his net worth is minus 25 lakhs. Right. So with a net worth of minus 25 lakhs, will he able to take risk? Probably not.
Probably
No,
not.
ma'am.
Because the first thing he has to look at is, look at the probability of repaying his debt. Okay, so these are certain things you have to look at before looking at suggesting various investment products to him. So, what was the measure of liquidity ratio? Anybody remembers?
Ma'am,
Liquidity ratio.
current assets to cover the current liability.
Correct, correct, correct. So they tell you important of tracking the liquidity enjoyed by the customer. So if he is a person who is getting regular income, his liquidity would be high because whatever is the scenario, end of the month, 30th of a month, his account would be credited. So liquidity ratio would be higher for people who are who have a stable job. So higher the liquid assets. I hope by now everybody understand liquid assets, assets which can be converted into cash easily.
Yes,
So for
ma'am.
example, the money you have in your saving account, the money which you have in your FD is also liquid. However, money in equity fund might not be liquid, not because you cannot sell it. You can sell it, but it might not be the right time to sell. So for example, if you look at today's scenario, the stock prices are falling considerably in the past few weeks. So even if I have a lot of shares, probably it is not the right time for me to sell. However, if it was the market was bullish, the market was rising continuously, I could have sold my shares. So even though mutual funds on open-ended funds allow you to sell, the timing might not be right. Okay? So emergency fund has to be kept in liquid securities, which is saving, FD, and maximum money market instrument. So money market instrument also might just take a few days, or maybe they take around 24 hours or 3 days maximum to get you the money, and your returns would not be too much affected if you withdraw early. So emergencies, you necessarily need to have funds for emergency fund in liquid assets. So emergency include no earning for some time, hospitalization, and unplanned travel. Liquid assets are assets or things of value which can be converted to cash. So liquid assets include money in saving account, liquid funds, that is money market mutual funds, and cash in hand. Money in equity mutual fund or shares are not liquid assets. As I explained to you, they can be sold, but the timing might not be right. Now, expensive, you have to ensure that your assets are enough to cover your liabilities. So this we had seen in terms of a company as well. So as Khushbu rightly said, liabilities upon the liquid assets upon your liabilities. So for an individual person, the expenses are the liabilities. So expenses can have your living expense, EMI, your insurance premium, and in today's time, it can be expenses on the medicines also. And today, it's very all of us are going through tough times. So there is a need for this contingency expense as well. So those are the expenses. So ideal ratio is 4 to 6 is generally a considered good. So if you have 4 to 6 times of your monthly expenses. So this takes into consideration that even if the customer does not get his salary for the next 3 months or 6 months, ideally it should be 6 months. So if you're looking for emergency fund, it should be 6 months of your expenditure. This will give you enough time to look forward. So for example, somebody loses his job. In today's time, a lot of people are losing their jobs. Okay. Or if their income is dependent on, every day. So they were like people, businessmen. Or income is basically on the daily business too. So in today's time, they'll be under a lot of stress. So if they have enough money, they would be able to survive for the next 4 to 6 months. It is good. So if you've seen, I don't know about in your city, but in Lucknow, a lot of traders have closed their shops uh, to stop the spread of this virus. Now they could do it because they would have a good emergency fund. If people don't have emergency fund, they will have to come out and open their shop. So it is important, and especially this pandemic has given us a very good lesson about maintaining liquidity. So if you don't have a stable job, or your income is dependent on many other factors, it is a very good idea to have at least 4 to 6 months of your expenses in liquid. So you might think that the money would be lying in cash, it is useless, but that's not the case. You can have it in FD, because FD is also liquid. It has a lot of liquidity. So maybe you can have it in FD. That should be the minimum amount you should have in FD. That if God forbids, if something like this happens, you have liquidity for the next 4 to 6 months. So ratio of 4 to 6 is generally considered good. A lower risk ratio means that there is a risk, and too high means the money is earning less return. So we have been talking about balance. So balance is very important in terms of investing. So in terms of even having money in liquid form, also you have to look at balancing. Again, you can't say, no, I have 10 months of expenses or 12 months of expenses, I should keep it in liquid fund. Again, if you're doing that, you're losing the opportunity to earn a return on this. So ideally, a 4 to 6 times your monthly expenditure is a good good liquidity, or can take off the contingencies. So as I told you, fixed deposit is also liquid. For volatile stocks like stocks, mutual fund, and even bonds, only 50% of their current value is considered. Because you might not get the right value. If the market is not right, you might not get the right value of your security. So in extended liquidity ratio, other financial assets like stock, mutual funds, bond, fixed deposit are considered in addition to the basic liquid assets. So देवेश, कौन-कौन से liquid asset देवेश है क्या? Yes देवेश, कौन-कौन से liquid assets हमने देखे? ऊपर वाले साइड में क्या-क्या लिखा, liquid assets में क्या-क्या काउंट करते हैं? Highly liquid assets कौन से होते हैं हमारे? Very liquid assets. सिद्धार्थ, आप बता सकते हैं हाईली लिक्विड एसेट्स कौन से हैं हमारे?
हेलो,
यस सिद्धार्थ, हाईली लिक्विड एसेट्स कौन से हैं हमारे? हाँ, बताइए कौन से हैं लिक्विड हमारे एसेट्स? हाईली लिक्विड, वेरी लिक्विड।
मैम मनी मार्केट एसेट,
इन्वेस्टमेंट इन मनी मार्केट एंड
मैम म्यूचुअल फंड में भी है।
म्यूचुअल फंड हाईली लिक्विड है?
जैसे
यहाँ पे लिखा है म्यूचुअल फंड यू कंसीडर ओनली 50%। म्यूचुअल फंड
मैम,
ये तो मैं आपको इतने देर से एक्सप्लेन कर रही हूँ।
यस मैम, म्यूचुअल फंड नहीं होगा।
हाँ, तो क्या है लिक्विड एसेट?
मैम स्टॉक, बॉन्ड, ये सब।
नो सिद्धार्थ। राहुल, वेरी लिक्विड एसेट्स कौन से हैं हमारे?
हेलो।
हाँ, यस
यस मैम।
वेरी लिक्विड एसेट्स कौन से हैं? अभी तो हमने देखा, इतनी जल्दी कैसे भूल जाते हो? पहले की स्लाइड में ही देखा, अभी लाइक जस्ट लोअर द स्लाइड, वी हैव जस्ट सीन इट, हाउ कैन यू फॉरगेट इट सो सून? और ऐसी कोई चीज नहीं कि जो हम लोग अभी देख रहे हो, वी हैव बीन looking at it for very long time now.
मैम
खुशबू,
मनी मार्केट तो होगा ना?
मनी मार्केट तो
मनी
है,
मार्केट।
हाँ, मनी मार्केट के अलावा क्या है?
मैम करंट अकाउंट, सेविंग अकाउंट, कैश एंड
Yes, current account, saving account is very liquid.
Cash reserve simply.
Yes, cash on hand. These are very liquid assets. ओके, म्यूचुअल फंड तो आप देख रहे हो ना, यहाँ पे इसी स्लाइड में है दिखा, इट इज टेलिंग दैट म्यूचुअल फंड आर नॉट very liquid. You only consider 50% of the total value as liquid. The rest is not liquid, right? So for volatile stocks, mutual funds or even bonds, only 50% of the current value is considered. Fixed deposit, the amount of fixed deposit is 100% liquid. Only you might, if you close it before time, the bank will charge you penalty on the interest you have earned. So your fixed deposit is also considered liquid to the 100% of its value. So for example, I've kept 25,000 in a fixed deposit. The 25,000 is liquid. However, the interest which I'm earning, the bank might charge a penalty on. Okay, so we consider fixed deposit also as completely liquid. A ratio of 4 to 6 is generally considered good to the common thumb rule. तो जितना भी कस्टमर का एक्सपेंस है उसका 6 times or 4 times, it will also depend on the stability of his job. The more stable job he has, the lesser liquidity he can maintain, because anyways his salary is going to be credited. Okay. So people with more stable employment can afford a lower liquidity ratio. So here you're not only considering liquid assets, you're also considering 50% of fixed asset plus 50% of other financial assets upon monthly average expense. So this basically tells how prepared the customer is to take care of his expenses, even if he is not earning money in the near future. Then debt ratio. Debt ratio is basically how much debt the customer has. So here you will divide the liquid assets by total debt. So also liquid asset coverage ratio. These kind of ratios we have seen when we were looking at ratio analysis for company. We have seen debt coverage ratio. So similar way. So liquid asset divided by total debt is a liquidity coverage ratio. But having a cover of 20% should be comfortable as the debt is long term. So for if, usually individuals have majorly have two kind of loans. One can be the auto loan, the other can be the housing loan. So housing loan is obviously the volume is very high, the ticket size is high, and also the time period required is also high. So even if it covers the current position covers 20%, it is good enough. Solvency ratio would take care of liquid and other financial assets. So it combines liquid and financial assets. I would suggest that if you keep on writing this will be better. You will revise it and you will remember it for longer time. So if you can write these ratios, the same thing which we had done when we were looking at the financial ratios for a company, and asked you to write it down. If you write it down, it will be easier for you to remember. Now, current ratio, we had done this in company ratio as well. So anybody remembers how do you calculate current
Yes,
ratio?
ma'am.
Yes.
Current-
What is it?
It is current
Current asset
current
upon
asset to
current
current
liability.
liabilities.
Yes. So here we are taking, so current liabilities are non-mortgage debt. So do we understand non-mortgage debt? What is non-mortgage debt?
Ma'am, which are not related to property.
Correct. So these are loans which are not taken for buying a house or for real estate. Now, why they have to be taken separately? What is the difference between a loan which you take for housing or which you take for any other thing? What What is the main
Ma-
difference?
Ma'am, it is a type of working capital loan that is for current assets mainly.
Yeah. So if you compare it with individual finance, what would it mean? So basically, if you look at your housing loan, it's a long-term loan.
Yes,
The duration can be as long as 20 years, 30 years. Okay. So it is not current. We have seen current are some debts which we have to pay in the near future. So non-mortgage debts in an individual could be a car loan or a consumer durable loan or a personal loan or a credit card. Right? These are non-mortgage debt for an individual. So you take that for calculating the current ratio. Ideally, it should be 1%. My liquid assets should be able to pay my current debt. But as we know that all current debt don't need to be paid at the same time. So even 30 to 40% should be good enough. Right? So for example, I have a credit card and I have a consumer durable loan. Now, consumer durable loan, I do not have to pay everything now. I have to pay it over a period of time. Credit card, yes, I'll have to pay now. Okay, so that much money I should have. So ideally, I should have one my non mortgage debt should be payable by my liquid asset, but since this debt is not necessarily to be paid immediately, so we can also have it 30 to 40%. 30 to 40% should be minimum target. The mortgage loan is a long-term debt, that's why we are not considering it. It is worthwhile to look at relationship of liquidity measures. So current ratio is liquid assets by non-mortgage debt. Ideally should be 1%, but one because that means, what would it mean? It means that your liquid assets are equal to your non-mortgage debt. DSCR also we have seen. Remember the formula, anyone?
Ma'am, total debt
Yes,
upon
ma'am.
Yeah,
capital.
so same formula, liquid asset plus short-term debt plus
Short-term.
12 months payment of other debt. So debt service ratio is how well can you pay the debt. Now it is important for individual investors also to pay debt in time. What effect can this have? What effect will it have?
Ma'am, this will affect the CIBIL rating.
Correct. Okay. So if you're looking at financial planning, you also have to ensure that the customer has a good CIBIL rating for getting loans at a cheaper rate and also to get any further loan. So as a financial planner, you also have to help the customer to maintain a good CIBIL rating. So that can be known by debt coverage ratio. If he has enough money to pay his debt, obviously he would maintain a good, he will pay all his debt in time and maintain his CIBIL rating. So debt coverage ratio is liquid assets divided by short-term debt plus 12 months payment of other debt. Now what is leverage? Leverage is a loan. So leverage, if you remember, we had calculated for company also. So we had taken debt into account for calculating the leverage. So here also we will take the investment liabilities. So this we have seen in company as well. Higher the lower the leverage ratio, better is the company. So lower the ratio, the more solvent the client is. If the leverage ratio is lower, it would basically means the customer has taken lesser loan. So your leverage ratio compares the liquid asset, the assets with the liabilities. So higher ratio indicates decline in value of investment income compared to investment neutralized to earn the investment income. So margin account payable for purchase of investment liabilities, financial asset including equities and tangible assets. So personal, you can also calculate the personal leverage ratio, indicates the percentage of personal and of used asset financed with debt. So assets are your cash, investments, and the personal assets are the ones which do not generate cash on service of its debt. Personal assets depreciate or are consumed. So what can be personal assets? For an individual, what can be personal assets?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
salary.
his properties, his properties.
Properties, no. Not properties, because
Acha, do not
property,
generate. Yeah.
property can generate cash and it also usually doesn't depreciate. What are personal assets? What can be personal assets?
Ma'am, saving account. Yes.
Saving account, चलो saving account तो बोल सकते
That
हैं,
could to
but
generate the cash. No, matlab.
yes, yes. जिसके लिए हम सबसे ज्यादा महंगा सा महंगा खरीदना चाहते हैं, सो आपके मोबाइल्स हो गए, कंप्यूटर्स हो गए, कार हो गया, these are all your personal asset. Do
Okay,
they
okay.
fit in the formula? Do they meet
Yes,
the
ma'am, they
criteria?
fit. They
Ma'am,
exactly fit
they
in the
are a
formula.
part of properties.
Huh?
Ma'am, they are part of properties.
They are
They are
not the
part
part
of
of.
properties, correct. But the biggest thing is that they depreciate.
And do not generate the cash as well.
Yes, yes. That is the problem. So, इसीलिए आपके पेरेंट्स आपको बोलते होंगे कि प्रॉपर्टी में इन्वेस्ट करो, rather than, मतलब अभी तो खैर आप लोग ने नौकरी भी नहीं शुरू की है, but if you ask your grandparents, they will tell you to invest in property rather than buying a fancy two-wheeler or a fancy car, because these are the things which depreciate the moment they are out of the showroom. आज आपने आईफोन खरीदा 1 लाख रुपीस का, पर the moment you take it out, the value would have depreciated. Okay? So these are personal assets. Should be they should be lower than your investment leverage ratio. So personal liabilities minus mortgage upon personal asset minus market value of home. So basically this tells you ki, the lesser you spend on depreciable assets, the better you can have your personal leverage ratio. Then financial flexibility ratio. It indicates the percentage of gross income spent on all debt service. अगर आपके पास debt ज़्यादा होगा, obviously your flexibility would be less. Your capacity to spend money would be less, because सबसे पहले तो आपको लोन पे करना है, लोन पे करने के बाद ही आप कुछ और स्पेंड कर सकते हो. So the lesser loan you have, the better flexibility you will have. Okay. So the higher the ratio, the tighter the client budget and more difficult it is to adjust to a decrease in income. The ratios is expected to be higher for younger individuals. So जैसे मैंने आपको एग्जांपल दिया, किसी ने 25 किसी ने 50 लाख का घर लिया हुआ है, तो obviously he will have to repay it over a long period of time. So थोड़ी सी flexibility कम हो जाएगी. Right? So financial flexibility takes into account your short-term debt plus 12 months payment of other debt divided by total income. So higher the lower it is, the better it is. So total income as compared to debt जितना ज़्यादा होगा, उतनी ही ज़्यादा financial flexibility होगी. So the higher the ratio, the tighter the client's budget and more difficult it is to adjust to a decrease in income. The ratio is expected to be higher for younger individual because total income is less, and probably if they've accumulated some assets and taken debt for their assets, this would be higher. So formula सब लिखते जाइए आपको. Maybe if you don't remember, at least you'll understand them better. Then debt to income ratio, obviously lesser it is, better for the customer, because then he will have more flexibility to pay. So it would include outstanding loans such as home loans, consumer loan. At a younger age, debt to income ratios can be higher. Increase in age of a person leads to a decrease in debt to income ratio. Because agar, no, ideally your income increases with age, and your debt, if it remains constant, debt to income ratio would decrease with individual's age. Saving ratio tells, okay, so now let me ask you another question. So how debt to income ratio will affect your investment decision? Will it have anything, any relation to your investment decisions?
Yes, ma'am, definitely it would be.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Higher,
What?
higher the debt to income ratio, lower will be our investable income because
Right.
our expenditures will be more.
Yes, and obviously the taking capability
Yeah,
would
it will
capacity
also
would decrease
decrease.
with higher debt to income ratio.
Yes, ma'am.
So saving ratio tells the saving related to the income and tells that about the saving ratio. So higher the expenditure, lesser would be the saving. Lesser would be the disposable income or the investable surplus. So saving indicates the total saving done till date as a ratio of the current income. So it includes our employee provident fund also, because that is not withdrawable. So current value saving is equal to current value of on investments plus employee provident fund. Obviously, at younger age, the saving to income ratio tends to be lower because you would have just started investment, and your EPF would also not have grown too much. So younger people, this ratio would be lesser. So the primary home is excluded out of saving. However, property other than primary home would be included at the saving, because this जिस घर में आप रह रहे हो आप उसको बेच के तो काम करा नहीं सकते, so that would not be included. But अगर आपके पास कोई दूसरा घर है जिसमें आप रहते नहीं हो, it can generate income for you, that would be included. So primary home is excluded out of saving. However, properties other than primary home would be included as parts of saving. At younger age, the saving to income ratio tends to be lower. With time, a person needs to accumulate saving to fulfill needs in life, including retirement. Saving need to increase with time. So in relation to age, the ratio gives us the idea of financial health of a person. Saving to income ratio, current value of total saving upon total annual income. And what rate of is saving? So total saving upon total income. So it will definitely depend on expenditure. You can save only after your expenditure. So lower the expenditure, better would be this ratio. So we have to, for financial planning, we also have to look at how adequately our financial risks covered. So financial risk is nothing but not earning through a certain asset. Okay, so that is you have to see. So for that, the customer should have adequate property and liability protection, provision of dependence if the client should die, cash flow as a percentage of salary. So therefore, I've been telling you this many times, insurance is also an integral part of your financial planning. All your financial planning cannot only be taken by buying investment products. You have to buy adequate insurance also for taking care of the finances of a company. Okay, so liability protection can be obtained through insurance. So when you're talking about financial planning with the customer, also talk about insurance. So a lot of bank employees find it very overwhelming to sell insurance, but if you sell it comprehensively with a financial plan, the customer would be very more open to buying insurance. Also, provision for dependents if the client should die would be taken care by insurance. So basically, if you look at financial plan, what it is taking a current status or current position, which can change, and however, your financial plan should not change. So, for example, a customer has planned for sending his kids abroad for education, and he started planning it. However, in between, he dies. Now, this plan cannot be met if he does not have adequate insurance. So, insurance should be sold uh, in with your financial plan, because this will enable the customer to meet his financial plan even after his death. Okay? So, always try to club insurance with your financial plan. Then it will be better to sell or more effective to sell. So the financial planner, it's not only about increasing wealth, it is about taking care of all the financial requirement of the investors. So an effective risk management program must be in place before the financial advisor can focus on increasing net worth. So another ratio is wage dependency ratio, relates to annual income in increase in total net worth. So the closer the ratio is to the one, the more risk management analysis must focus on principal wage earner life and disability program. This ratio should be smaller for older clients, and larger increase in net worth comes from the earnings. So it takes wage dependency ratio takes care of salary and bonus of the principal wage earner divided by total realized income increase in net worth. So every year, if you have done proper investment, your net worth should increase. So as people and as we've seen, younger customers might have a negative net worth. If they have taken a loan, then they might have a negative net worth. So your net worth is lesser in at younger age, and it increases with your age. So wage dependency ratio would be lesser for older person. So we were just talking about insurance. So financial plan also needs to take care of life insurance coverage ratio. And the customer should have adequate personal insurance. So a lot of people, when you talk to them about insurance, they say that, no, I have 5 lakh of insurance, 6 lakh of insurance. But what does it mean? It means that if the person dies now, his family would get 6 lakh. Is that 6 lakh enough to take care of his family's financial need? Obviously, the answer is no. If the person would have been alive for the next 20 years, and assuming that his salary was 6 lakhs per year, so 6 into 20, he would have earned 1 crore 20 lakhs, which is, if you compare 6 lakh, does not stand anywhere. So this is how insurance should be told to people, sold to people. It should be sold as an insurance product, which is there to take care of any unplanned contingencies. Okay. So you also, the financial planner does not only need to work on increase of the net worth, you also need to take care of these eventualities. The ratio not to be used in case of needs analysis to determine adequate life insurance coverage. Ideal ratio, a ratio should be 7 to 10, indicates the beneficiary need to support themselves for the extended period of time. So it should be at least 7 to 8 times the salary of principal wage earner. and should be carefully interpreted since liquidity of each person's net worth is quite different. Because we've seen liquidity will be dependent on the type of asset classes you have chosen. Okay. So life insurance coverage ratio should be equal to net worth plus death benefit of principal wage earner divided by salary of the principal wage earner. Then tax burden, the financial planner also needs to take care of the tax. And as we've been talking, the financial planner has to work out an effective tax saving plan for the customer. Tax, and I hope all of you understand that tax saving is different than tax evasion. Tax evasion is fooling the government and showing your income less to pay lesser tax, whereas tax planning is taking into account various provisions given by the government of India to save tax. Okay, so a financial planner also needs to help the investor to plan his taxes better. So tax percentage of realized income is net worth paid out of taxes. Clients are interested in paying the least amount of tax in compliance. So it has to be in compliance with the current tax law and ruling. So everybody wants to pay less tax because that affects the income directly. However, that has to be in compliance with the law. If it is not in compliance with the law, it is tax evasion, and it should not be done. So the financial planner must evaluate effectiveness of tax planning as a way to enhance the client's net worth. Significantly lower the average income rate, which is aggregate tax liability divided by taxable income. So primary goal of financial advisor is to assist client in legally avoiding or legally. So please pay attention on legally avoiding or postponing the payment of taxes. Both measures are useful to calculate when examining the income tax burden on client. Okay, so can you tell me some legal ways of saving tax?
Yes, ma'am. Through
Yes, Kushbu.
ma'am, through EPF, Employment
Okay.
Provident Fund,
Uh,
it offers tax benefit up to 2.5 lakh.
2.5 lakhs, who told you that?
Ma'am, tomorrow, yesterday I have,
2.5 lakhs?
yes, ma'am.
No, when did it become 2.5 lakhs?
Ma'am,
It is
EPF,
1.5.
ma'am, EPF plus BPF combines together and it gives 2.5 lakh tax benefit.
No, I don't think that is correct. Maximum is 1.5 lakh. If you invest in NPS, you can also get a benefit of 50,000 more. So 2.5, if you have this article, share it with me. I don't think that is correct.
Yes, ma'am, I have read yesterday.
Where have
And
you read?
today I'm on Google.
It's not 2.5 lakh. It is not 2.5 lakh. If you can, get the links, just send it to me. I will see what it is. The maximum is 1.5 lakh and another 50,000 you can save if you are investing in NPS.
Ma'am, that's why I have taken a screenshot to show you.
Okay, show me the screenshot. Just 1 minute. I'll make you the host. Share the screenshot with us because this is something which I am also not aware. Just give me a moment. Okay, so Khushbu, I've made you the host. Share it with us. Share it. Go to share screen and share it with us.
Ma'am, I have to search. After that, I will share.
Okay, if you will time, then make me the host. Against my name, click on more and make me the host. Or you can just share the link in the chat box. I will go through it. Share the link in the chat box.
I have to
Okay,
just
ma'am,
search.
wait, I
It's
You
showing
also read
1.5
something
lakh.
like that, Arpita? You
Ma'am,
also read something like that.
no. I'm saying I've just searched and it's showing 1.5 lakh right now as well. I don't know where she got
Yeah,
this.
I don't know from where did she get. It might be proposed or something because the new budget has not made any changes to the income tax exemption. So total can be 2.5 lakh because you have some standard. Oh, you might be talking about a standard deduction, Khushbu. 2.5 lakh is the standard deduction.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is very different than tax saving. No, 2.5 lakh is the standard deduction. Okay, first you make me the host. Go to more against my name and make me the host. Khushbu, are you doing it? Khushbu? Okay, thank you. Okay, so what you're talking is, okay, that is standard deduction.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
nothing to do with PPF and EPF. 1 minute, let me share. Okay. Just give me a moment. I will populate the. Okay. So what Khushbu is talking about is the standard deduction that is offered by the government. That means if your income is up to 2 point, you don't have to pay any tax on income up to 2.5 lakhs. However, there are other provisions like Section 80C, Section 80D, and Section 24. So some of them we have not seen, but we have definitely seen Section 80C, which talks about a deduction of 1.5 lakhs if you invest in certain kind of investments. Okay, so for example, if you have to invest, suggest the customer for saving tax, you suggest him equity mutual fund. So you can save 1.5 lakhs in equity mutual fund and get that exemption. That is how you reduce the tax liability. So effective income tax ratio is equal to income tax liability divided by total annual income. So basically it talks about the percentage of client income paid out or forms of taxes. So this is not relevant to India. In India, we don't have any social securities. We have property taxes and other taxes. So probably, we will. I think we have understood this as a part of one of the sessions where we have seen how the tax is calculated. So in India, the tax is calculated based on the income tax slabs. So there are different type of different percentage of tax paid depending on your income. So we have to take care of that. So higher ratio would indicate that there are the direct taxes paid by the client. So effective tax ratio is equal to total tax liability divided by total annual income. Hedge here actually means protecting. So though we know hedge funds is very risky, where people take risk to generate better returns, but here hedge we are talking about how protected the customer is. So inflation hedge ratio measures insulation the assets provided against inflation. So though we say equity can be taken for hedging inflation, equity assets do not automatically increase with inflation, but they have the possibility of doing so while fixed rupee assets do not. So fixed income, the returns on equity can change, but the return on fixed income instrument is the same. Also, owning a home gives considerable protection against increase in housing cost, and also it controls inflation, because inflation would mean that there are general rise in prices, and if everything is rising, the value of your house will also rise. Like equities, other tangibles don't necessarily increase in value with inflation, but have a possibility to do so. Personal assets provide insulation from effect of inflation in the near terms. in sense that can be used without the need to buy their service at higher price that occur with inflation. So a suitable figure for this ratio depends on the concerned inflation. So if the inflation is high, then this has to be high. So equity plus tangible assets plus personal asset divided by net worth is the inflation head ratio. Then cash flow. Cash flow will depend on the income. So calculates cash flow generating during the year. Cash flow is a positive ratio, indicates that cash flow is generated for saving and investing. Ideal ratio for young is at least 10. Negative ratio and indicates that living expenditure are being financed by using credit. Credit means loan. So net cash flow is equal to 1 minus decrease in net worth upon decrease in realized increase in net worth. It tells you your stand financially. Sum of all your assets less all your liabilities. It gives you the true picture of what you actually own. Consider both assets and liabilities. So this we have seen net worth is equal to sum of all assets minus sum of all liabilities. A positive net worth would suggest that the customer has some substantial saving, whereas the negative net worth would say that the customer has a lot of loan. Also, to hedge, to take care of the inflation, client, it's good for the clients to even maintain his or her position. Net worth must increase at least as quickly as the present inflation rate. Generally, the growth rate easily increases several percentage point more than the inflation. So net worth growth ratio is equal to net increase in net worth by net worth at the beginning of the year. So the assumption is if you've been saving, your net worth will keep on increasing. So if inflation is 0.05 for the last 12 months and a ratio of 0.01 indicates that net worth is lagging behind the inflation. So you're not doing investments to take care of the inflation. So what do you take in net worth? So net worth entities know how well situated the customer is meeting his goal. So what proportion of net worth category, that is segment of the net worth. So segment of the net worth is equal to asset category minus debt divided by total net worth. Okay. So these are some ratios which you'll have to consider for considering the investment classes and for planning well for the customer. So the objective of the wealth manager is to, one, try to increase the net worth of the customer, help him in achieving his financial goal, and also plan for contingencies and reduce the tax liabilities. So that's why a wealth manager has to be well versed with the existing income tax laws, the existing financial product, and also insurance. So a relationship manager can do it well with some reports, okay, or he will be required to prepare some reports. And he is also evaluated on these parameters. So relationship manager is the link between fund house and the client. It can also be the bank and the client. So the performance of the relationship manager would be judged on client retention. So how many clients you had at the beginning of the year and how many clients you have. So client retention. Also, you'll be required to get some new clients, so growth in the number of clients. So when you start your managing your portfolio, you will be given certain clients and there would be a target to increase the number of clients as well. So how well you are generated by the RM. Directly related to the revenue generated by the RM. So if you can generate more revenue than your salary, then you're profitable RM. Otherwise, for a liability. Addition of new clients, growth in existing clients. So if you want to be a relationship manager, this would be your KRA. KRA is your key result areas, or the way we are evaluated in the school by by taking marks of all subjects. So for to pass, I had to get a certain score in English, a certain score in maths, and so on and so forth. So similarly, when a relationship manager's performance is evaluated, all these parameters are seen. So this is some reports will be generated by the relationship manager, and he'll be required to do this because he will be evaluated, and also this will give him direction. So for example, he says that he's not been able to add more number of clients, so then the focus would shift there. Okay, so these are certain parameters on which the RM is evaluated, and he need to keep a track of this. So he has to generate some report like client retention rate, client feedback report, cost of servicing per AUM for RM team, growth in client under RM or for the RM team, growth of revenue per RM, instances of mis-selling reported. So mis-selling ही नहीं करना है. Concentration of client asset class of relationship managers. Client generated as per population. So these are some parameters on which the RM is evaluated. So RM is not only evaluated on the business he gets, he's also evaluated on customer feedback, for example, on concentration. So if he suggests only one kind of asset class to the customer, so he's like taking a concentration risk. Okay? So all that is evaluated to evaluate the performance of the RM. Model portfolio, we have seen model portfolio are basically based on the risk profile of the customer, and they guide you how to do investments after identifying the risk of the customer. So step 1 is achieving the portfolio design, reassessing portfolio weightages, and rebalancing strategy. So if you are investing as per the model portfolio, you'll have to keep on reassessing the portfolio weightages. That means अगर आपका equity में ज़्यादा पैसा हो गया है, तो आपको उसको balance करके debt में लाना पड़ेगा, and vice versa. So you should have the model portfolio के हिसाब से आपने invest कर दिया. That doesn't mean your work is over. You have to continuously evaluate and see if the portfolio needs any kind of tweaking. So once you have determined the right asset allocation, you simply need to divide your capital between appropriate asset classes on a basic level, which is not difficult. So equities are equities. It can be private equity or bought from the stock exchange. Obviously, we know private equity is riskier than equity of a public limited company. But you can further break down the different asset classes into subclasses, which also have different risk and potential return. Okay. So Khushbu, can you tell us how will you rate debt instruments in risk? Do all debt instruments have the same risk, or the rest can be different? The risk for debt products, fixed income products.
Ma'am, there are different type of risk associated with different.
Okay. So which are the low risk debt?
When we invest in government securities, then risk is lower.
Okay.
While in junk bonds and other,
Correct.
these have higher.
Okay. Yeah, so even debt products, different kind of debt products have different kind of risk. So for example, if you're looking at picking up equity, you can choose from various investments, various sectors, various market capitalizations, domestic and foreign stock, assets and securities. Now bonds again can be short term or long term. You can either buy government debt or corporate debt. So stock picking, bond picking, mutual fund, exchange traded fund. So once you have established the portfolio, you need to analyze and rebalance this periodically because market movements may cause you initial weightage to change. To assess your portfolio actual asset allocation, quantifying categories, the investments, and determining their value proportion to the whole. Also, if there is a change in the customer's situation, so we have seen we have to continuously monitor. So we have to continuously monitor the investment. Also, we have to constantly keep in touch with the customer because any kind of change in his financial position or number of dependents would change the way we have allocated. So for example, now the customer gets a better paying job. Okay, so his investable surplus would be more. So he would be able to invest in, he can invest in riskier investment options. So not only the market scenario can change, but the customer or position can also change, and we also have to take it into consideration for evaluation and monitoring. So other factors that are likely to change over time are the financial situation, future need, risk tolerance, and obviously your portfolio has to be adjusted accordingly. If the risk tolerance has dropped, you may need to reduce the amount of equities held, or you are ready to take greater risk and your asset allocation requires that a small proportion of your stock assets to be held in riskier small cap stocks. So essentially, you have to rebalance your portfolio for any kind of change. The change can be a change in the market, or that can be a change in the customer's life. Essentially, to rebalance, you need to determine which of your positions are overweighted or underweighted. So this is one example of rebalancing. So a customer holds 30% of current assets in small cap equities. What's the problem with small cap? Is there a problem with small cap?
Yes, ma'am. They are
Yes,
not
ma'am.
stable. They are not stable.
They are not.
Stable.
They are not
Yes,
stable.
very
Correct.
risky, ma'am.
They are very risky. Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
your model portfolio says that the customer should have only 15% exposure. So obviously you will sell the rest 15% and rebalance your portfolio. So asset allocation suggests you should only have 50% of your assets in this class. So you will rebalance. So rebalancing will involve, and you will determine how much of this position you need to reduce and allocate to other classes. So this is also known as strategic rebalancing. So once you determine which securities you need to reduce and by how much, decide which underweighted securities you will buy with proceeds from selling the overweighted securities. Overweighted is which is above the suggested percentage in asset allocation, and underweighted is something which is below the suggested asset allocation. To choose your securities, use the approaches discussed in achieving the portfolio design. When selling assets to rebalance your portfolio, take a moment to consider the tax implication of readjusting your portfolio. So we've seen this tax. Tax also has a bearing on your investment return. So consider tax as well. So perhaps your investment in growth stocks has appreciated strongly over the past year. But if you were to sell all of your equity position to balance your portfolio, you may incur significant capital gain taxes. In this case, it might be more beneficial to simply not continue any new fund to that asset class in future, while continue to contribute to other asset classes. This will reduce your growth stock weightage in your portfolio over time without incurring capital gain taxes. So capital gains, as we have understood, is the gain in the value of any asset, and you need to pay tax on that. So if you sell those assets or those shares, you will have to incur capital gain, which will affect your total return. So the thing is, the point we have to remember then when we are looking at for any kind of rebalancing, take the tax also into consideration. So at the same time, always consider the outlook of your securities. If you suspect that those same overweighted stocks are ominously ready to fall, then you want to sell in spite of tax implication. Analyst opinions and research reports can be useful tools to help gauge the outlook for your holding. And tax cost selling is a strategy you can apply to reduce tax implication. Throughout the entire portfolio construction process, it is vital that you remember to maintain your diversification above all else. It is not enough simply to own securities from each asset class. You must also diversify within each class. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने जाके सिर्फ स्मॉल कैप शेयर्स खरीद लिए. हमने देखा स्मॉल कैप्स आर रिस्कियर शेयर्स. और ये भी नहीं कि आपने जाके सिर्फ एक ही कंपनी के शेयर्स खरीदे. तो यू हैव टू डाइवर्सिफाई नॉट ओनली इन types of asset classes, you also have to diversify within those class. So for example, debt आप ले रहे हैं, तो ये नहीं कि आपने सिर्फ गवर्नमेंट डेट ले लिया या सिर्फ कॉर्पोरेट डेट ले लिया. You will diversify. Ensure that you're holding within a given asset class and spread across an array of subclasses and industry sectors. As we mentioned, investors can achieve excellent diversification by using mutual fund and ETFs. So these investment vehicles allow investors to obtain the economy of scale, while large fund managers enjoy with average person would not be able to produce with small amount of money. So here, for example, you see a diversified portfolio which has allocation in different asset classes. So a well-diversified portfolio protects your assets from risk of large declines and structural changes in economy over time, because different asset classes behave differently in the economic scenario. So for example, at the time of turmoils, your gold would appreciate. You know, when the economy is doing well, your equity would appreciate. In case the government is trying to control inflation, your interest rate would increase. So you have to look at the economic scenarios also for diversifying your portfolio. Also, you have to monitor the diversification in your portfolio, making adjustment when necessary, and you will greatly increase your chances of long-term financial success. And a well-diversified portfolio is the best bet for consistent long-term growth in your investment. So obviously, to see whether you have done well, you have to compare yourself, because your performance as such does not have any meaning. So you have to compare your performance with the benchmark. So it is important that investors and other interested parties are able to monitor the performance of fund in order to assess the result that the investment manager has produced. This requires selection of a suitable benchmark and analysis of the performance of the fund or your portfolio. So you can only tell whether your portfolio is done well by comparing with a benchmark, because the market forces also have a bearing on the results. So how you have performed vis-a-vis other funds. So you have to have a relevant benchmark, and we've seen enough of this when we were understanding mutual fund. So obviously, different kind of asset classes have to be compared with different asset class. So depending on the kind of asset class you have, you will have to make comparison with relevant bond or stock index, comparison to the customer benchmark, and comparison to similar funds. Then we have seen the best way to measure your return in equity is the index. However, you can use these calculation method for construction of market. So this is the way you construct the market. So we have seen that Sensex or the index is a price weighted average. So that means here you take the market price. So we have seen your capitalization is calculated by the number of shares and the price. So if you're taking, you can construct the index by taking the price of the share, or you can take the share price as equal or market capitalization weight. Usually the Sensex is calculated on market capitalization weight, so that the average is taken based on the market capitalization of the company. So major indices used to performance measure are market capitalization weighted indices. Total market capitalization of a company is included irrespective of who is actually holding the shares, whether they are freely available for trading. Market capitalization weighted index are usually adjusted for available shares or its free float. Customized benchmarks are often developed when the portfolio spans several asset classes. So a well diversified portfolio will have a different asset class. Okay, I think a small portion of this is left, which we will cover tomorrow. And tomorrow we are also going to do aptitude. So tomorrow we are going to do probability. So just revise your probability, and we will do it tomorrow. Right? Any questions on what we've covered today?
No, ma'am. No questions.
Fine. So we meet tomorrow, and tomorrow, whatever is left, I think 4 or 5 slides are left. So we will do that, as well as we will do probability. Okay.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Chalo,
Thank
bye
you,
bye.
ma'am. Have a nice
Thank you,
day.
ma'am. Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.